Hey everyone, it's Matt, aka Tech Ranger, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. I've been playing a lot of this game, and I've been enjoying it a lot, so I wanted to put together a little video for those of you who maybe haven't played the franchise before, or are jumping in after a long time from not playing the other games. I just want to kind of learn about the settings in the game, a little bit about the universe and what you're going to be doing in Stalker 2, and to not have a rough start. So if you enjoy the video, leave a like down below, and comment down below if you're playing Stalker 2 and how you're enjoying it so far. With that said, let me tell you a little bit about the game, what you'll be doing, settings you should look at, and some good information for new players. So Stalker takes place in an alternate universe. In our universe, there was the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster in 1986, and then that's where the game actually splits off into its own universe. So as far as the games go, in 2006 there's another nuclear disaster at Chernobyl, and that is where the games pick up. There was this thing called the Zone, which is basically the exclusion area around the Chernobyl power plant. This whole area was sectioned off by the government and military, and then scientists came in to study the anomalies that sprung up because of all of this. But then when people started figuring out what was going on, groups of people called Stalkers would actually go into the zone to find artifacts that actually spawn out of the anomalies that were created by the nuclear disaster. The game is first-person survival horror, so you're basically trying to survive in the zone. You'll have missions and side missions from the different Stalker factions that actually are held up in the zone and actually have their own philosophy, what should be protected, what should be destroyed, and oh yeah, there's also mutants that are running around that can kill you. I find the universe fascinating, and I actually watched the Stalker movie by Andrey Tarkovsky, and that was actually based off of the novel Roadside Picnic, which just spawned all of this. The book and the movie, the main difference between those and the games are that the games, Chernobyl happened, so that is the catalyst for all of this. In the book and the movie, there's an alien element to it that creates the zone. So first thing we gotta look at before we start the game and doing all of the things is we actually have to look at our options in game. So make your way to the options at the main title screen. There's a few settings that I think you're gonna wanna change before you actually start the game. And I think the first one you're gonna wanna look at is difficulty. Now the Stalker difficulty is kind of the regular difficulty. It's a difficult game already, but I think the Stalker one is actually really well balanced so far. But if you're new to the franchise and you just wanna get your feet wet, just learn about the Stalker universe as you're playing and then maybe change the difficulty later on, you can go that route if you want. The enemies won't hit as hard and things won't be as unforgiving. It'll probably still be a tough game regardless, especially if you're not the best at first-person shooters or inventory management. The story bits I have played so far are cool, but it's a lot more fun when you have a lot more going on in terms of what you need to worry about and how dangerous the zone actually is. It adds to the atmosphere of the game. It's not a super hardcore survival game, but there are things like bleeding and radiation and knowing when to take a nap, hoarding loot, those type of things that you want to keep in mind. As far as UI, the user interface, I would leave everything as it is right now. One thing that isn't really shown here is the quick access bar that's above your HUD in the bottom left where your health is. The two items on the left here are dealing with your left on the D-pad. The little bar with the overlay under the can of food means that you hold the left D-pad and then that will activate that item. For example, if I just press the left D-pad, I activate the bandages, which then my character applies the bandage. Right D-pad will use that energy drink there. Hold the right D-pad where that overlay is, and then that will actually drink the vodka. And then your status indicators will just be above your health bar there, over encumbrance and bleed, and I think you know which is which. For graphics is about what you'd expect for any Series X or S game. Performance target 60 frames per second. The quality mode is going to push that 4K resolution but knock you back down to 30 frames per second. I think the game looks really good on performance mode already, so I usually go with that option if I can for any first-person shooter. Quality does look better, yes, but I'm not ready to sacrifice those frames to get a better image if it's not really necessary. The display option is next. So this has some interesting things. You can actually change the brightness, contrast, and gamma, which is the overall brightness of the whole image. And you can also change this setting, which is the image encoding. Now, if you're playing on a monitor, sRGB is the way to go. That was not the default option for me, and I was playing on a monitor at the time, so make sure this option is checked if you're playing on a monitor. If you're using a TV, you might be okay with the other option, but it will be darker. So if you don't have a bright TV, going to be kind of hard to see. Another important option is the sound options that you have. So you have the speakers as the output device type. That's the default, which I don't think is good if you're using headphones. Make sure headphones is picked if you got them. Dynamic range is the other one. You're going to want to make sure this is set to full, so you get the full dynamic range, you get to hear everything that's going on in the world of Stalker, and overall it's more immersive, so I highly recommend it, especially if you're using headphones. As far as controls go, I would mess around with the controller sensitivity and the aim sensitivity. The value will depend on you, but the default is a little slow for me, especially coming from something like Black Ops 6, so I would up it by a little bit at least. You can also change the aim assist type from the default to something like focusing, or just like a full aim assist so it follows the target. And last but not least, there is one accessibility option as well for color correction if needed. And now for the fun part, which is actually playing Stalker 2 and surviving the zone. There is a tutorial in this game, but in this section I want to go over a little bit more than what that tutorial actually shows you, because there are some things that are left out that I think you probably should know about. So we know a little bit about the zone, but what about these PDAs that are just kind of laying around and used as mission items? Well, they do provide you notes, which you can go and read and learn about the lore around the area, or that can actually give you a new mission, new area to discover, or a stash which has loot. These stashes are actually great because they're left by previous stalkers that have been through the area. Depending on the stash, it can give you some new weapons, but generally it's just materials like food and water and bandages, medkits, stuff that you need to actually survive in the zone. Most importantly, things that you don't have to spend money on. Once you have a PDA, that note is already added to your inventory, so you don't really need it anymore unless it's a quest item. It's not a way to get a lot of extra money, but you get more than if you just hung on to them for no reason. The next thing you'll run into is some combat, so keep in mind you're going to be fighting both mutants and human NPCs. There's several different kinds of mutants in the game, and I don't want to spoil any of the later game ones, but at first you're going to run into the Bloodsucker. Now this guy can actually turn invisible and swipe at you. You can track it when he goes invisible, and then you can try to sidestep him to keep from being hit. If you do get hit, which can be often, you can get a heal off in between swipes. Keep moving. You won't have a shotgun in the starting area, but once you eventually get one, 3 direct shots to the face will put them down, but an automatic weapon will also suffice. The other one that you can't really see at first is the Poltergeist. This is like a floating cloud that's just kind of roaming around. He's going to pick stuff up and throw stuff at you, so you need to shoot this cloud in order to reveal him. He takes a lot of shots, and he will put up some rocks to defend himself. When the Poltergeist is exposed, just let him have it, and boom. And that will make that first area with the boat a lot easier to traverse. If you're playing the prologue, just know that even in the later game, combat can still be pretty rough. You can end up using a lot of bandages and medkits and other healing items, and you might end up needing those in another situation. This means that you're going to want to approach things differently than you would maybe another open world game that you've been playing. The weapons you have available to you will kind of dictate how combat will work in your favor, or if it'll go the other way. Going in guns a-blazing may not be the best way to go forward. However, if you just have a pistol, you kind of need to get close and then go for cover when you can, because when you get hit, it's going to hurt in the early game when you don't have the best armor. Now with combat, sometimes that also means anomalies. You've probably been exposed already if you're playing the prologue to anomalies. These are things that will pop up around the zone and can hurt you. The prologue does show you these anomalies and that there can be artifacts that pop out of them. When you're near any anomalies, your scanner will start beeping. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's an artifact near. Whenever there's a lot of anomalies around, just pull that scanner out and you'll be able to detect whether or not there's an anomaly there or not. That way you don't spend a ton of time looking for artifacts when there isn't any. And last but not least, let's talk about loot. In the inventory, you can hover over any item and see exactly what it does. Any ammo will actually tell you what gun it goes to, and if you have that gun, it will be highlighted. A helpful thing when looting is when you see a gun kind of on the floor, you can actually just straight up unload it right then and there. This is helpful, especially if you find a broken weapon, because you can't really do anything with that until later game. So yeah, because this is a survival horror game, survival meaning weapon durability, there is that. The yellow icon will actually mean that the durability is low and in need of repairs because it might jam on you. Once you get to the first town after the prologue in the game, you can go to a stash, which is by a bed in that first trader shop that you're in. This is your personal stash and will follow you to any settlement you go to, so I generally will put any of my broken and unusable weapons in there. When you do missions for the people in the settlement, you actually improve the reputation with these sellers, so you should get more money when you go and sell things, so I generally wait until that's the case, pull the stuff out of the stash, and then sell it, as well as any extra weapons that I might have. This is a good way to get some extra coupons, which is the currency in the game, so you have some extra cash just in case. Gear is essentially how you level up your character in this game, even though there are no levels. The better gear you have, the better off you will be. Have a little bit more cushion, no pun intended. In the prologue, through a turn of events, you do lose all of the loot that you collected in the prologue, but there is a way to prevent that from happening, or at least most of it. So, at the end area of the prologue, you go into this building, you will see a safe. Now, it's actually locked behind a gate. Just go around the house here and jump in the window. You'll be able to get access to that safe. Now, put everything that you have in there. Go ahead and go through the end of the prologue. When you come back to this area, which you will as part of the story, you will see all of your loot there. Let me know in the comments if you've gotten everything that you put in there, or maybe just some of it. I've seen online that sometimes people only see the broken weapons that they carried, but they'll keep the materials. But then I was surprised when I saw that I actually had fully functional weapons. I just forgot to put that AR-416 in there, so I lost that. And that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed putting this one together because I've been anticipating this game for quite a while and it's finally out. I'm 20 hours into the game and I feel like I haven't even really done half the story yet. I've just been kind of wandering around, scavenging, and having a great time. So I wanted to share some of that love into this video and hopefully help anybody out who maybe hasn't tried the game yet, want to know what the game is like, or just want a little bit more than what the prologue offers. This is easily one of my longest videos in a while, but if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below. If you want to see more Stalker 2 content from me, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.